Tom Connell.
Tom Connell from Sky News. Casting my mind back to the last time the Coalition won office when Labor was in power, and similarities with the Coalition narrative, if you like, wasteful Labor spending that the Coalition would end. It's fair to say when you got to power, that first budget still seemed to take a few people by surprise, though, in terms of the spending cuts. So I'm just wondering your approach this time around. Will you be really detailed if you win power and then you hand out your first budget or hand down your first budget? There won't be major surprises in terms of spending cuts you've suddenly had to find?
Well, we plan to announce our policies before the election, like Anthony Albanese, who's announced many of them, particularly in the tax area, since the election, whether it's franking credits or indeed the stage 3 tax cuts and so on. He's done much of that since the election and continues to, and we'll see how much more of that there is. Superannuation is another example of that, so we do plan to. But the key to this, and we realised this, I think, during our last term of government, Matthias Cormann and other finance ministers and treasurers focused on it relentlessly. You've got to make sure your economy grows faster than your spending, Tom. That doesn't mean scorched earth. It means restraint. It means there's discipline on colleagues. What I see in Labor right now is those disciplines are not there. They're not there. I mean, every minister will always have an idea about something they could spend money on, but there has to be restraint, just as there's restraint right now in households and businesses across Australia. And to do that, you've got to have simple rules, which we did drive and succeed in delivering in that period leading up to COVID. So that's the key. That's the key, and that's why bringing back that fiscal rule is so important. It gives Australian taxpayers certainty. It gives all Australians certainty, but it also creates a discipline within government, which I think is crucially important.
No scorched earth, meaning it'll happen slowly?
But it's restraint. I mean, it's sensible here. This is about making sure that you grow the economy faster than you're spending. It's like every business person in Australia has to have a rule something like that to make sure that there's a fair deal there for shareholders as well as employees and customers. And this is just sensible, back to basic stuff. There's nothing shiny and new about it, but it's been ditched by the government. This is the point. They've given up the ghost on this stuff. They've put up the white flag, and that's why you see this 16% increase in spending in 2 years.
David Spears.
David Spears from the ABC. Angus, thank you for your speech. I was going to ask you about nuclear policy, but I think I need to clear up migration. You've said a 25% reduction in the net overseas migration intake is the Coalition's policy. Peter Dutton has said he'd reduce it from 260 to 160,000 next year. That's more than 25%.
Yeah, but that's over. I'm talking about over the 4 years, David. So look, the position here is this. Well, Peter's already given you, as you know, the permanent migration numbers and the overall numbers over the next couple of years. Over the coming years, there'll be, a term of government, there'll be 25% reduction. So that's the plan. If our policies, of course, were implemented tomorrow, or if they'd been indeed implemented when Labor came to power, we'd have seen many more houses freed up and a much better balance between housing and migration. But that's the balance that we're seeking to achieve, and that's where the 100,000 houses, will.
Okay, just to be clear though, on net overseas migration, is it a 25% reduction next year or not?
No, I said over the full term of government.
Over 3 years?
Over 3.
A 25% reduction. Okay, and that was a settled Coalition position?
No, I've already said that, David. I've already said that. By the way, I'm delighted to get your question. I thought you'd asked me enough questions last Sunday, but it's good to see you back at the microphone.